Natsuo, a high school student, is smitten with his teacher, Hina. To move on from his infatuation, he attends a group date arranged by his friends. There, he meets Rui Tachibana, an introverted girl. Uninterested in the event, they both leave. Rui invites Natsuo to her house. She propositions him for sex without any romantic feelings. Hence, they both lose their virginity to each other. After this encounter, Natsuo confides in his friend Fumiya for advice, who finds it hard to believe and even bashes up his friend for the act of it. Next day at school, Natsuo finds Hina crying on the school rooftop and tries to offer his support. However, the teacher says that he is too little to understand such problems. This angers Natsuo, who storms off. At home, his widowed father, Akihito, shares his plans of remarrying. He also informs that the woman he shall marry is coming to visit and will soon live together with them. To his utter shock, Natsuo discovers that Hina and Rui are his soon-to-be stepsisters. They shift to a new place together. However, Rui and Natsuo pretend not to know each other. As the night proceeds, Hina drinks herself to sleep on the couch. Natsuo tries to take advantage of her with a kiss, but Rui catches him at the last moment. Rui swiftly drags Hina into her bedroom upon witnessing Natsuo attempting to kiss her. The next day, Natsuo discovers that Rui has transferred to his school and they decide to feign ignorance of each other. He notices that Rui eats alone at lunch and becomes concerned about her isolation. Natsuo attempts to befriend her. As they converse, their classmates begin to eavesdrop and appreciate Rui's personality. At home, Natsuo finds Rui in the bath and she invites him in. However, nothing intimate occurs as Rui merely expresses gratitude and tells him about Hina's boyfriend. The next day, their parents decide to marry at the city hall and dine at a restaurant afterwards, meaning that it falls to eldest sibling Hina to take care of the house. She is tasked with cooking but fails miserably, prompting Rui to save the day with her cooking prowess. After dinner, Rui goes to her room. Taking benefit of this, Natsuo tries to coax Hina into revealing details of her boyfriend. Just then, she receives a call from him and leaves to meet her boyfriend, as he wants to talk to Hina. She returns home an hour later on the brink of tears, but before Natsuo can pry, their parents arrive. Hina assures Natsuo that she is fine and leaves. Natsuo confides in Fumiya about his troubles and discovers that Hina is having an affair with a married man. She comes with him at the cafe where Fumiya works. Upon confronting Hina, Natsuo attempts to kiss her again. She returns the kiss and pushes him on the bed. But as he becomes overwhelmed, Hina says Natsuo is still a child and warns him to stay out of her affairs. The next day, he leaves home to stay with Fumiya. Rui seeks out Natsuo at Fumiya's house and discloses that she had already known of Hina's affair with a married man. Rui had previously asked Natsuo to have sex with her after her sister refused to understand and instead taunted Rui on being a virgin. They both decide to break up Hina's relationship and return home to find their parents considering divorce due to their children. The siblings reassure their parents and Hina apologizes to Natsuo the next day, but he ignores her. Natsuo and Rui attempt to track down Hina's boyfriend without success. One day, as they are discussing their next move at the restaurant where Fumiya works, Hina and her boyfriend Shu arrive. Natsuo argues with Shu, but the restaurant owner intervenes and urges them to talk calmly. Eventually, Shu agrees to divorce his wife for Hina. However, Rui throws water in his face and leaves. Natsuo chases after her. Following this commotion, Hina informs her boyfriend that they should take a break. Natsuo visits his mother's grave, and Rui and Hina follow him. At the grave, Hina reveals that the relationship is over, and they all pray together, introducing themselves as Natsuo's new sisters. Rui strikes up a friendship with Momo Kashiwabara, a girl known for dating many boys. One day, as the girls go out, they run into Natsuo, who saves Momo from a near collision with a cyclist. She takes an instant liking to Natsuo and asks Rui if he has a girlfriend. At school, Momo flirts with Natsuo, but he heads home to take care of Rui, who is sick and alone. The following day, Momo kisses Natsuo on the cheek in a bid to lift his spirits. Later, she invites him over and they start to make out. Natsuo notices scars on Momo's wrist and he backs off. He then cooks for her instead and tells Momo that she can call him whenever it feels lonely. Momo is moved to tears, saying that none of her previous boyfriends have treated her with such kindness. She asks if they are dating, but Natsuo suggests they avoid committing to a relationship. Natsuo stumbles upon Reiji Kiriya, the teacher who runs the school's literature club, taking a smoke break on the school roof. Their initial interaction is awkward and uncomfortable. Later, Rui asks for Natsuo's help to find a club for her. They struggle to find one that suits Rui. Natsuo eventually discovers the literature club, borrowing a book by his favorite author, Yo Hasukawa. The next day, while returning the book, he is caught by Kiriya. He blackmails Natsuo into joining the club. Literature club consists of only one other member, Miyu Ashihara, whom Natsuo suspects Kiriya of kissing. The teacher then tries to orchestrate a romance between the students, but Natsuo backs off when he sees Miyu crying. They begin exchanging notes in the library and a friendship blossoms. Natsuo convinces Rui and Momo to join the literature club too. On the weekend, Hina asks him to go out with her. During their beach trip, Hina and Natsuo bond and are mistaken for a couple. While chatting on the shoreline, Natsuo shares his novel manuscript and confesses his long-standing romantic love for Hina. He tells her she was the inspiration for the book's heroine. Hina acknowledges her past cruelty towards Natsuo in their confrontation and listens quietly as he confesses his feelings. In a flashback, it is revealed that Hina's relationship with Shu began similarly to Natsuo's feelings for her. As a confused teenager, she fell for Shu, the charming school physician who made her feel wanted and loved. In the present, Hina explains to Natsuo that dating each other would be double harming. After returning home, Hina reads Natsuo's novel. Later, Rui visits his room and they begin making out. She suggests that they continue their secret incest relationship like this. Later, Natsuo catches Hina masturbating in her room while calling out Shu's name. The next morning, she greets Natsuo and reminds him to wake up early. As Hina waves goodbye, Natsuo feels embarrassed, staring at her hand. While Natsuo is going about his business at school, he suddenly is hit by a bicycle ridden by an American transfer student named Alex. Within moments of their introduction, he insists on being friends with Natsuo. Later on, Natsuo and Alex team up to apprehend a thief who had stolen Rui's undergarments. That evening, while preparing dinner at home, Natsuo attempts to play matchmaker by introducing Rui to Alex. But their plans are thwarted when she becomes angry and storms out. Natsuo takes the initiative to apologize to Rui. She forgives him and asks to kiss and caress her. However, their intimate moment is interrupted by Hina's sudden arrival, and it's evident that she's deeply distressed by what she saw. Seizing the opportunity, Rui expresses her heartfelt emotions about Natsuo to her sister. It ultimately leads to Hina deciding to leave their shared residence. Rui encounters Shu at a local bookstore, where he apologizes for the problems he has caused. Shu asks Rui for lunch. During their meal together, Shu reveals that he is now divorced, but feels hesitant about reconciling with Hina. Meanwhile, Hina moves out of the house, but leaves a key of her new apartment for Natsuo. Sometime later, Rui discovers Natsuo gazing out the window in Hina's old room and offers him comfort by giving him a warm hug. Later, he makes his way to Hina's apartment. Natsuo confesses that he is willing to die for her, leading to a passionate kiss. However, Hina stops him from going any further, cautioning against rushing things too quickly. The following day at school, Hina reciprocates Natsuo's feelings by confessing that she feels the same way, culminating in a tender kiss. As Natsuo's relationship with Hina progresses, he becomes a regular visitor to her apartment. One day, the literature club decides to pay a visit to their absent teacher, Kiriya. They discover that the club's supervisor, Kiriya, is Yo Hasukawa, one of Natsuo's literary idols. After returning to school, Natsuo falls down the stairs and breaks his leg. Rui takes care of him, including bathing Natsuo. Despite her devoted care, he lies to Rui about his secret visits to Hina. Instead, Natsuo covers it up by claiming to go to Famiya's place. Rui becomes increasingly suspicious of his lies, which leads to her reading Natsuo's novel. She realizes that he's in love with Hina after reading it. Rui goes to the cafe where Natsuo's friend works and discovers that he has been lying all this time. When she goes to Hina's apartment to confirm her suspicions and confront Natsuo, Rui is overwhelmed by the sight of them together and flees. Determined to clear the air, Natsuo tracks her down and resolves to tell Rui everything. After Natsuo confesses about his relationship with Hina to Rui, she decides to distance herself from them. But at home, Rui keeps crying, so she eventually confronts Hina. She apologizes to Rui for her actions and offers to end things with Natsuo. Understanding Hina's feelings, Rui stops her from breaking up with Natsuo. Finally, the sisters reconcile. Few days later, second-year students embark on a beach vacation to Okinawa. While being there, Natsuo buys a souvenir ring for Hina. When he sneaks into her hotel room to give it to her, she tries to break up with him. However, Natsuo objects and puts the ring on Hina's finger. They watch a spectacular fireworks display from her window. Natsuo, calling Hina by her name for the first time, asks her to marry him in the future. They consummate their relationship and have a heart-to-heart discussion about their feelings. Upon returning to school, Hina is summoned by the school principal and shown a video of her kissing Natsuo in the hotel room. The principal confronts Hina for her involvement with Natsuo. They agree upon a deal, leading to Hina's announcement that she will be transferring to a far-off school during a school ceremony. Natsuo and Rui are unable to contact Hina, but they eventually find a letter in her empty apartment. The letter reveals that she requested the transfer in exchange for the school's silence and to help Natsuo move on. He falls into a deep depression. However, with the encouragement of his literature club peers, Natsuo channels his emotions into a new novel. Natsuo and the club submit his new novel to Kiriya, who enters it into a contest. To Natsuo's surprise, he wins the first prize. He is whisked away to a ceremony by his friends, where Natsuo is presented with the award. Later, he returns home and mistakes Rui, who is wearing a wig, for Hina. She is on the brink of tears as they have a heart-to-heart conversation. Natsuo tells Rui that he had sex with Hina. Nonetheless, she declares her love for him and kisses Natsuo. Rui is determined that she will no longer hold back from loving him. Elsewhere, the two schoolgirls talk about Hina's new short hair. She gazes into the distance with a smile on her face, reflecting on the conclusion of Natsuo's second novel, Well, See You. And that brings us to the end of today's recap.